Start recording. Hey, how you doing, everyone? Greetings and welcome to this little kind of what it is. What this is looking at a game in development, more or less. That's what I'm doing. I've finished with Bob. I did a version 2 and I will be releasing that with a few little updates. It's a lot faster in both 1 and 2 player mode. You can now select keyboard if you wish, and I'm after ironing out a few bugs. And also, if you have the means to, you can put Bob onto a cartridge. I've got a cartridge file that'll run in your CoCo as well, so you can do all that. That will be on my itch page fairly soon. But now that Bob is finished and over and done with, and that I've kind of been learning a few little bits extra in assembly language for the 6809, a little bit in Z80 as well, but that's beside the point for today. What I have started to do is a new game for the CoCo and the Dragon, and I'm calling it Super Shooty Aliens. It's a space shooter. I'm not 100% sure what exactly it's going to be, but I started it a couple of weeks ago, and I thought what I'd do is every so often I'll show you a little progress video of kind of what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, how far I've kind of come, and explain some of the steps that I decided to take to make certain things work. I thought that might be interesting. So it'll be a kind of a vlog, you know, that kind of a way, kind of a thing, but not really. But yeah, what I've done is I'm writing my code. This here is the code for what I've done so far. Now, there's some code in here that isn't being used, and there's some kind of pilfered code, because I'll show you in a moment exactly what I'm doing here. I decided to rob the joystick code from the unravelled books. You see what the unravelled books are, for those of you who don't know. The Tandy color computer has a ROM within it, and inside in that ROM there is code to do all kinds of different things. And there is a little bit of code in there that you can call upon, if you so wish, to read joysticks, to read the analog joysticks in your CoCo. And that code will work and return a value and let you use your joysticks in your programs. But the thing about it is, it's a little bit slow, because it actually reads the joystick 10 times before it returns a value. So I decided what I'd do was I would kind of rob the assembly language code as it was printed in the unravelled book, which is pretty much this here that I have selected here. This is it. I kind of just robbed it direct out of the book and stuck it in here, and I had to set up a few little bits at the beginning of my code as well. That you see here, there's a couple of addresses, you know, a couple of bytes you need to put to one side kind of for it. But yeah, so what I've got here is I've done that, and what I did was, instead of it now checking 10 times, it just checks once. That's it. So we've got a kind of a fast joystick routine that isn't relying on the actual ROM inside in the Tandy color computer, because we've kind of cloned it in a way, changed it and stuck it into our own code. That's pretty much what's happening here. So I've called it the Get Joy routine, because it will get us our joystick values. Or, yeah, that's pretty much it. Get joy. That's what it calls. So it will give us joy stick values. And yeah, that's pretty much what I've done there. That's one of the things I did with Bob actually in the version 2 to speed up the joystick routines as well. But there was a couple of things. Anyway, that is kind of beside the point. What this game is, let me show you. Let me show you what it is here running inside of XROR. So far, this is what we've got. It's a space shooter. Well, a kind of a one. What we've got is, we've got a little ship here on the bottom of the screen that can go left and right, and we can shoot missiles out of it, you see? So this here is what it's doing. Now, I've kind of bridled it, or I've kind of, yeah, cordoned off so that we can only shoot 3 missiles at a time, and there's also a little bit of a gap between the rate of fires so that you can't, like, shoot all 3 of them in one burst and then not shoot anymore. And the other thing that I've decided to do is, it's not just going to be a kind of a linear left and right. We can also, again, only using 2 keys, left and right, go right the way up one side of the screen, and right the way up the other side as well. So just using 2 keys, we're kind of going across 3 surfaces. Now, what I'd like to do with this, you see, I'm not 100% sure exactly what the heck I'm doing as regards game design either. So what I was thinking was maybe the graphic will change when it's on the side of the screen. And instead of shooting up the way all the time, depending on what side of the screen is on, it'll shoot to the left or the right, that kind of way. So we'll have kind of, I think what the game is going to actually be, I'll be honest with you, is our ship here that moves around the screen in that way. And we've got swarms of alien invader forces that are protecting their mothership and trying to destroy us. And I think the idea will be that we need to destroy them to kind of weaken the shield on the mothership and destroy the mothership. I think that's more or less what it's going to be. So we'll have a large mothership in the center of the screen with aliens all swarming around it some kind of way, and we can shoot at them and they'll shoot at us, and for whatever reason we'll probably have to go up the side of the screen. What I was thinking was maybe the ship won't go up the side of the screen, but a little cord with a little spaceman go up the side of the screen, so it's like you're leaving your ship to go up and collect stuff or shoot or whatever, and then you have to go back down, and you'd be kind of vulnerable, you know, that kind of a way, and you'd be taking a risk, so maybe there'd be some kind of payoff. But anyway, look, that's pretty much it for game design. The other thing I figured I would do is, instead of using this color mode like I used for Bob, where we only have, well, we'll still only have 4 colors anyway, because this is the screen resolution I wish to use, but to make it more kind of spacey and have a black background, I was thinking I'd use NTSC artifacting, which means that on my own real CoCo, I'm going to have a black and white kind of picture or whatever, but using it on an NTSC CoCo or in VCC or XROAR will give us artifact colors, you know. I think it could be nice that way, because I'd like to put a star field in the background as well that kind of scrolls as we move. I think it could be, see, I like to set myself challenges like that I really don't know what the heck I'm doing, and then try and figure them out, you know, that kind of way. But anyway, let's have a little look at the code that I've got here so far. A lot of it is, I'm not going to explain it, you know, in detail. I'm really not. But what I will do is I'll just show you what we're doing is I've put a couple of variable kind of bytes aside for variables. And we've got clock variables that'll kind of increment. And you see, the idea behind a clock in a program like this is if there's not much going on and you just set a program off, it kind of goes really fast, like super really fast. So what I've got is I've got a master clock that kind of ticks along the whole time. And depending on what number is on that master clock, it will update my control clock, my missile clock, and my laser clock. So the control clock is the one that when you press left or right, it kind of provides a little gap of time between each movement to left or right or whatever. So it kind of controls the speed that we move our player's ship at. So we get kind of nice movement across the screen type thing, like this, instead of it like being a blinding flash and you're from one side to the other in no time at all. I've also got a missile clock and a laser clock. Now, the missile clock, what that's doing is it is controlling the speed at which those missiles are moving up the screen, because again, if there was no clock for that, the damn things would be off the screen before you even saw them. And I've also got a laser clock, and what that's doing is it's kind of given a time between when each missile is being fired. So instead of having 3 missiles, one just after the other, we've got a little gap between them. So if you keep fire held down, there's a little gap between the missiles, and it's not like 3 missiles just behaving like one because they're all together. So that's basically what I put in there. But what I will show you here is pretty much how I'm doing my control and whatnot on the ship. You see, when we start our game, the ship is in the middle of the screen on the bottom here, and I've got a variable that's running that is kind of an 8-bit variable that goes between 0 and 255 to know exactly where our little player ship is on screen. It's not the actual address, you know, the memory address where it's drawn on screen, but it's like one beside it that kind of keeps track of where he is on a kind of a linear line, if you like. So I've started him sitting kind of at 116 on this line. And every time we move him to the left, that number decreases by 1. Every time we move him to the right, that number increases by 1. So when he's over here on the extreme left-hand side of the screen, he is at 101. And that's how we know, more or less, when we're doing our joystick control tests and we're going left or right, it reads that number to see, do I need to move him just to the left, to the right, or do I need to start making him climb up or climb down? That kind of way. That's the way that's working. And you'll see it here in my joystick control. So what we're doing is we are loading up our control clock to see, is it time to actually make the joystick or to read the joystick so that we can move the player or whatever. But basically what's happening is the joystick is red, and if we've pushed it to the left, it will load up this P1X position, which is the number on that line, like I said. And it compares it. If it's at 46, that means that our ship is at the top left-hand side of the screen. So what'll happen, we can't go any further up. If we're trying to go further up at that, it'll just exit out. It'll keep our ship there. If the number is lower or the same as 101, it'll start moving it up the way on the left hand side of the screen by branching down here and doing whatever needs to be done to do that. And if the number is higher or the same as 132, it'll kind of move it down on the right hand side of the screen. So our left, in fact what our left button does is it moves to the left if we're on the horizontal, it moves up if we're on the left hand side of the screen, and it makes the player move down if it's on the right hand side of the screen. So there's kind of gymnastics going on that kind of way with how we're moving our player character around the screen, just using this actual one little variable that's kind of controlling all of this. Pretty much that's it. What else do I have here? Yeah, that's pretty much it for the left one. The right one does more or less the same thing as well, and that's pretty much the code there that does it. But that's how I'm reading, so that we know what needs to be done. That's how the program knows what to do with a button press, more or less. It's just using one variable to figure out all that. Now when it comes to firing a laser, or to shooting a missile, I suppose, as you would call it, there are a couple of things going on. You see, what's happening is I am reading my fire button in probably the most amateur way possible, but I don't know how to do it any other way. I looked in the using extended color basic manual, and I found that to check for a joystick button press, you read a register or a memory address, and you check to see if there's a value in there. And it was shown how to do it with peeks and pokes, and I pretty much translated that over to this here in assembly code. And what I'm doing is I am loading the A register with whatever is found in FF00, and then I'm comparing that value to 253 or 125. If it's either of those two values, it reads a button press on the joystick and it goes to fire the laser. Otherwise it doesn't. And I don't know if that's really the right way of doing this or not, but that's the way that works for me for the moment. So that's what I'm doing for the minute. Okay, I'm trying to explain this laser thing, how it works, but it's kind of difficult. But anyway, look, let me show you. What I've got here is I've got the laser code that I've written. This is the code that controls how lasers are fired when you press the fire button. And not only that, it actually updates as well from the continue laser that I have here. It updates a missile's position on screen so that it moves up the screen. But basically the way it works is I have put 6 bytes of memory to one side to contain missile screen addresses. We can fire 3 missiles at any one time. We can have 3 missiles on screen, and each missile's address is 16-bit, so we need to have 2 bytes put to one side for each missile. Now the way it works is we fire a missile. The processor goes off to what I've called 3 shots. This is where I've put those bytes to one side. And what it does is it looks at the first 2 bytes. And if they contain 0, great. That means that there is no missile being used for this particular memory address. So it can use that to launch a missile. If there is an address in there, it means there's already a missile on screen there. So it'll move to the next 2 bytes and check to see if there's a 0 in there. And again, if there's already a value in there other than 0, it'll move to the next address. And if all 3 addresses already have, or if all 6 bytes already have addresses in there, then it'll exit out. That's how we kind of keep it just to have 3 missiles on screen at any one time. Now that's when we're firing a missile. Remember that after we fired a missile, the missile moves up the screen, and that's controlled later on with this continue laser routine here. It actually goes from, I think it goes from check laser to begin with, and it checks the missile clock and all that to see if it's time to update so that we have the speed of the missiles the way we want it. And if everything is good, it'll go to continue laser. And continue laser is more or less exactly the same thing. The processor looks in those bytes, and if there's a 0 there, it skips. There's no missile to be updated. If there is an address in there, then it increments that address, or it actually decrements it by 21 hex, so that it'll move it up the screen. It's all here in this code here, more or less, is what's going on. And when it gets to the end of those, or when it gets to the last of those 3 addresses and does whatever it has to do, then if it comes across FFFF in the next byte, it'll exit out. And yeah, that's a little thing I did. There's probably a better way of doing that, but what I did was I put in my 6 bytes so that I would have the space for the 3 missile addresses, and at the very end I put in a couple of Fs so that it would have something to kind of see that it had gotten to the end of the whole thing, more or less. If that makes any sense to you at all. But anyway, that is basically how far I've gotten with this. We've got our draw player routine, we've got the joystick code like I said to you before, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm not really going to make this code available as such. I mean, it's here in the video if you want to have a look through it and see. But for the moment, I'm not going to make it available or anything like that, because it's going to change an awful lot kind of as I work through it. And you'll see there's a lot of uncommented code where I just have like extra little screen stuff here, the SG4 screen, if I want to put text in the way I did with Bob, you know, that kind of way. So basically what I'm doing is I'm kind of cutting and pasting code from Bob if I need it, and then I'm just kind of writing new code as I go and trying to figure out ways of doing things and then implement them through code, pretty much. And I find that's the best way to learn. I find it helps me an awful lot anyway as regards trying to learn this stuff. But yeah, I just thought I'd post this because I'm not really posting anything, and these kind of videos are quick to make, although there is a lot of rambliness in it. But anyway, if you enjoyed it, or if you'd like to follow this kind of thing and you're not already subscribed, do or don't. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. But yeah, that's this for now. Take care of yourselves, and I'll be along with an update. I'll do a few little extra bits and pieces. I'll try and make this move along a bit, and I'll show you how far I've gotten in the next couple of weeks. So until then, see ya. Bye bye.